So many David versus Goliath battles in history have been decided with the corner kick. For the Goliath, corners are merely another way to score a goal. For the Davids, it can be the only weapon in your arsenal to penetrate an opposition defence. Greece won the Euro 2004 final against Portugal through scoring from a corner kick. Didier Drogba headed in Chelsea's equaliser against Bayern Munich in the dying minutes of the 2012 Champions League final, ultimately scoring the winning penalty to win the trophy in a final many thought they had no chance of winning. This is the part of the game where a last gasp winner can be found, sending half the fans in a stadium into euphoria and the other half into tears of despair. It's a facet of the game where if you get it wrong, it doesn't matter that much, but if you get it right, then moments of history can be made. It's a truly beautiful part of football, made all the more exciting when you're not only fighting against the opposition, but also against time. It has provided so many monumental moments in football over the course of its history. The ones that come to mind are the 1999 Champions League final, where Manchester United scored 2 goals in 2 minutes in injury time to win the final, the Trent Alexander-Arnold quick corner which completed the comeback for Liverpool against Barcelona in 2019, and more recently, Chloe Kelly's winning goal against Germany in the 2022 Euros, and Sjoeke Nüsken's goal against France in the 2025 Euros, which gave Germany a way back into the game after they went down to 10 players, ultimately winning on penalties. Amongst all the excitement and emotion of a corner kick, I think it's worth looking into the setup, the design, and the chaos of a corner kick. This is me literally spending hours and hours finding and watching corners that are interesting enough to talk about from multiple domestic leagues, the Nations League, international friendlies, every competition I can show on YouTube without copyright issues. Googling best corner goals women's football hasn't worked, so what I've actually been doing is I go on sofascore.com. This is not an ad, I'm not sponsored by them, I just really like their website, I really like their layout, past games, goals, stats like that, they're really easy to find. So what I've been doing is I'm basically looking up random centre backs like Magdalena Eriksson, Wendy Renard, Millie Bright, Rebecca Kanak, and I'm going through all the goals that they've scored. I'm trying to find highlights on YouTube, and I'm just watching the highlights, hoping that the goals that they score are from corners. I know on the surface, corners kind of look like, oh, let's just kick it to the tall one and hope she heads it in, but there's honestly a lot more to it. Let's begin our journey in finding the answer to the question, what in the world goes on at corners? Let's start with the defending. There are 2 types of defensive setups when it comes to defending a corner. Zonal defending, where the defense is set up to mark specific zones within the box, and player marking, where each defender specifically marks an opposition player. Pretty much every single team in the world uses both types of setups together at the same time. Let's take a look at a corner here in a game between the best team in England and Chelsea. Maya Le Tissier, Dominic Janssen, and Elizabeth Turland are all stood around the edge of the box, defending zonally. Le Tissier is watching the front post area, also the front edge of the 6-yard box. Janssen is responsible for the area in the middle of the 6-yard box, and Turland is watching the backside of the 6-yard box. This diagram will hopefully illustrate it better, and any corner coming into this area should be claimed by the goalkeeper, in this case, the blocktopus, Fallon Tullis-Joyce. Note how United have their 3 best players in the air stood in these zonal positions. They're the players that are expected to head the ball away every single time if the ball lands in their area. Especially these 2 players. They need to be the best defensive players in the air in the team. The player in the front post can be interchangeable. Height isn't as important as bravery, but having someone there is absolutely crucial. This is the usual zonal setup for every team, and if we look at other teams, Aston Villa have Miri Taylor on the front post, Anna Patten in the middle, and Lynn Wilms on the far side. Chelsea have Oriane Jean-Francois on the front post, Millie Bright in the middle, and Natalie Bjorn on the far side. The corner comes in, and Bright heads away cleanly. If we go back to the United-Chelsea corner, the rest of the players are marking each Chelsea player individually, and teams usually decide on who to mark based on height and ability in the air. For example, we have Fridolina Rolfö marking Millie Bright, both 1.78 m in height, or 5'10" for the Americans. The corner comes in, as Elizabeth Turlin heads away as the ball falls in her area. This is generally the defensive setup for every team in the corner. Every team will have slight variations, but this is the general idea. However, there is a bit of a blind spot worth pointing out in this system, and that is that this space on the front corner of the 6-yard box is not very well watched. Ideally, you'd have one player stay on the front post and another player standing around here, clearing away anything coming in this area. Miri Taylor here can't really leave her front post area, so by the time she clocks that the ball has gone to the front edge of the 6-yard box, she won't get there in time. So it's better to have an extra person stood here so their sole responsibility is watching this area. This blind spot is exactly what Chelsea targets with this corner. Taylor is slow to get to the ball, Millie Bright attacks the space, the ball then, that's going on, and Sam Kerr scores her first goal back from her ACL injury. I guarantee you, if Jill Byings had taken 5 steps back to stand here, then this goal is never scored. Now that we've gone over how teams defend a corner, we can get to the fun part, the attack. The base level blueprint for an attacking setup on a corner is like this. One player is stood near the keeper, in this case it's Rosa Kafaji. She's not looking to score. Her role is simply to obstruct the keeper so that she can't come out and claim the ball in the air, leaving Kinga Shemik rooted to the spot. Michelle Ajimang and Charlize Rule are in and around the 6-yard box, occupying the danger areas on the edge. Minami Moeka, Maisie Simons and Caitlin Hayes are all a bit further away, with Minami running across the face of the goal to attack the near post. Simons and Hayes, which sounds like a law firm, are attacking the back post. These 3 players don't have to stand here. They can be around the penalty area. But since every Brighton player knows this corner is going to the back post, that's why Hayes and Simons are back here. Fran Kirby puts one hand up, takes the corner, and Caitlin Hayes towers over everyone to score a beautiful header. If we look at this corner from last season, Chelsea have players littered around the 6-yard box, and the 3 players running onto the ball are all near the penalty spot. Millie Bright and Lucy Bronze both run towards the near post knowing that the ball will go near the front post, and Bronze win the WSL title for Chelsea against Manchester United yet again. This then begs the question, how did Bronze and Bright know that this ball was going to the near post? Oh look, Sondi Baltimore put her arm up. I think she knows the answer to my question. This single arm raise indicates to the Chelsea players that this ball is going to the near post. Let's take a look at the West Ham Chelsea game from the season. Erin Cuthbert puts 2 hands up, indicating that this ball is going to the back post. Keep your eye on Millie Bright, as she makes a run towards the back post because Chelsea corners are aimed at her if Sam Kerr isn't on the pitch. It's not the best delivery. Bright had to backtrack to get to the ball and couldn't get a good connection on it. When Sam Kerr was substituted on later, Guro Reiten does her best ray gun impression, and Sam Kerr is the one running to the back post, since her aerial ability is incredible. She wins the header, but the city where my favourite movie Step Up 2 was set in heads wide. This time, Guro Reiten puts one hand up, and this means that this ball is going to the near post. Millie Bright is over here, and runs toward the near post looking to flick the ball on, but doesn't get there. What Chelsea look to do when they send the ball to the near post is for Millie Bright to flick it on, changing the trajectory of the ball and hoping one of her teammates in the middle can turn the ball in the net. This last-minute goal from Angel City FC against Washington Spirit is a good example of a near post flick on. Kristen Press is the one running to the near post, and as she gets the flick on, it instantly creates so much chaos because everyone in the box has to adjust to the new trajectory of the ball. Washington Spirit fail to deal with it, and Riley Tiernan scores as Angel City win the game 4-3 in injury time. This is just one way to attack the near post. I'll get onto other methods later on. The general idea is that the ball will either be delivered to the near post or the far post. If the corner taker shouts, "Near post!" it might be quite easy for the opposition to figure out where they're going, so they just raise one or both arms in the air depending on their signal. Every team has their own code for different set plays. We saw Tottenham recently come up with the set play after Evelina Summanen put one arm up, and Toko Koga scores this really nice team goal off a corner. Chelsea actually have a third hand gesture, Kat Macario doing the Wakanda Forever pose, signaling that the ball will be played short. This ultimately comes to nothing, but this is the idea of what putting one or both arms up mean whenever teams take corners. This blind spot in defense is an area most teams target when attacking from corners. The way teams do this is to have an in-swinger deliver the corner. What this means is if the corner is on the right hand side, having a left footer, like Alex Greenwood in this example, take the corner because the curl she puts on the ball means it will drift towards the goal. If you have an outswinger or right footer, taking the corner from the right hand side aiming at the near post, it's much harder to get good pace and accuracy for the ball to land in this area due to the fact that if you want to curl it, you risk curling it out on the goal line first before the ball even gets to the edge of the 6-yard box. Here we see Vilda Boarisa taking an outswinging corner aiming for the front post. However, she slices the ball instead of whipping it in, which means the ball is slower and gives the defense more time to adjust and head the ball away. So if a right footer is taking an outswinging corner, they will most likely aim for the back post, or the space between the penalty spot and the edge of the 6-yard box. Unless your name is Clara Boule, in which case you can take corners with both feet because you're just that good at football. Having a left footer is better because the ball can be whipped in at pace, curled to land in the blind spot, and all Viviana Miedema has to do is just change the direction of the ball because the momentum of the ball is already quick enough, so she doesn't need to generate any power for the header for it to go past the keeper. In-swinging corners are easier for the goalkeeper to catch because the ball is curving towards you, but if the attacking team has a player stood in front of the keeper, in this case, Emily Murphy, then it makes it infinitely harder for the keeper to come out and claim the ball. Megan Campbell, who for once was asked to take a set piece with her feet rather than throwing the ball in, delivers this in-swinging ball with pace, and Anna Patten thumps home to double Ireland's lead in the game. It's worth noting that Greece are defending this corner zonally, not marking any Irish players. Each player is watching a specific zone, and whilst in theory this works, it's not the most effective way to defend a corner. Every single Irish player has a free run to attack the ball, and I'm sure you've seen this before in a game. The pushing and shoving that goes on when players wait for the ball to come in, and as annoying as it is to play against defenders that are literally shoving you in the box, it does work, and it makes it harder for the attacking team to meet the ball at the desired timing. Megan Campbell delivers an absolute peach of a corner. You think she threw it in there, it lands in between two Greek defenders, and because Anna Patten doesn't have a defender looking to sumo wrestle her out of the box, she has a completely unobstructed run to the ball and scores a great set-piece goal. Corners are usually scored from a combination of a perfect delivery and also a defensive mistake. The mistake is either choosing the wrong system to defend with, like we saw with Greece, or an error in marking. I don't know how teams decide who should mark who individually, but a lot of the times it doesn't make a lot of sense. For example, Caitlin Ford is the one marking Bunny Shaw for this corner. Given that Arsenal set up with 4 players marking zonally, Russo, Catley, Verbemoy and Smith, Ford is the next best option in terms of height to mark Bunny Shaw. But this is Bunny Shaw we're talking about. In my opinion, stopping someone getting to a good position to jump up for a header is a lot more important than the ability to win it in the air when it comes to one-on-one marking. Katie McCabe, who's here marking Jade Rose, would have been the better option to mark Bunny Shaw given she's an absolute nuisance of a defender, and I mean that as a compliment, and would have most likely physically stopped Shaw from getting to the ball at the back post. Keep your eye on Ford as the ball comes in. Shaw loses Ford way too easily, and Kirsten Kasperai squeezes the ball in for City to regain the lead in the game. If you're a fan of the 2000s and 2010s era of the Premier League, then you might remember teams like Tony Pulis' Stoke City, or any team managed by Sam Allardyce as teams that prioritize set pieces as a primary way to score goals. Whilst there isn't really a team like that in women's football currently, the closest thing we have to a set piece dominant team in recent times is any team that has Amanda Ilestedt. There are very few things that just work together, like peanut butter and jelly, beans and toast, bagels and cream cheese, tequila and bad choices. We can add Amanda Ilestedt and corner kicks to this list as well. If you haven't been following the Frauen Bundesliga this season, Amanda Ilestedt is Frankfurt's top scorer in all competitions with 5 goals in 12 games. 4 of them came in the league, and by comparison, 6 goals is the most an individual has scored in the league so far, shared by 4 players at this current moment. And if you haven't figured it out already, all 5 of her goals came from corners. Her goal-scoring record is well documented but not spoken about enough. She scored 4 goals for Sweden in the 2023 World Cup. The best midfielder in the world, Hinata Miyazawa, won the Golden Boot with 5 goals. I'm not allowed to show you any of the goals thanks to FIFA, but as you can imagine, Illestedt's goals in the World Cup all came from corners too. In fact, just for a little bit of fun, I did some digging and watched every single goal Amanda Illestedt has ever scored throughout her career because I'm a weird little boy that thinks this is a fun way to spend a Friday night. The last goal she scored that wasn't from a corner was against Orléans when she was at PSG in January of 2023. It was actually a free kick, so still a set piece. The last goal she scored that wasn't from a set piece was when she was at Bayern Munich, scoring this goal against Werder Bremen on the 13th of September 2020. If we go back to this current season, what Frankfurt do with their set pieces is very interesting. Whilst other teams usually have one player standing in front of the keeper and another one, maybe two players max, in the 6-yard box, Frankfurt looks at the conventional setup and just laughs in front of everyone's faces because they pile 6 players inside the 6-yard box on the goal line. Nina Lösen, the left back, takes the in-swinging corner and she's looking to aim for this area. Because Frankfurt squeeze in 6 players in the 6-yard box, this means Hamburg has to mark each player individually. So there are 12 players in this tiny little area. There's no room for Larissa Heidner, the Hamburg keeper, to go anywhere. So this guarantees that the keeper won't come out and try to claim the ball in the air because she has no option but to stand on the goal line. As a keeper, ideally you would be a yard away from the goal line just to give yourself the option to come and claim or punch the ball in the air. But since there are so many players in front of her, Heidner has to stay on her line and let her defenders deal with the corner. The idea is this: Lösen will swing the ball into this sort of area, near the front post but not further than the middle of the 6-yard box, so that there's no way the keeper can get to it. And it is Amanda Illestedt's job to anticipate where the ball's going to land so she can get there before anyone else. Obviously, Frankfurt will aim for Illestedt because of her height, and since she's taller than most professional women's footballers, every corner taker for Frankfurt will have been practicing their deliveries into the box, trying to aim for the tip of the Burj Khalifa in the middle of Dubai. Illestedt's height is obviously an advantage for her, but she's also exceptional at anticipating where the ball is going to land so she can meet it at the highest possible point when she jumps. And she's also really good at using her body to claim the spot where she needs to jump from to meet the ball. Watch Illestedt jostling with Jess Carter here to get herself in the perfect spot to head the ball home. In my opinion, she's the most effective attacking player from corners. It's ridiculous how many goals she's already scored for Frankfurt this season, and I think it's brilliant they're fully leaning into this weapon and taking advantage of it. It's frankly not just Frankfurt. Sweden do this as well, the other team that Amanda Illestedt plays for. If you watch every goal the Swedish Empire State Building has scored in the 2023 World Cup, they use this exact tactic every single time. And even if the Swedish Taipei 101 isn't playing, they still have a handful of useful targets to aim for. In this game against Wales, Philippa Angeldal has 5 players to aim for inside the Welsh 6-yard box. Really quickly, they are Hanna Lundqvist, Stina Blackstenius, Fridolina Rolfö, Natalie Björn, and Magdalena Eriksson. Lundqvist is the only one under 1.70 m, so that's why she stood at the front post. Middleton Patel has no chance of coming out to claim the corner, and Magdalena Eriksson gets on the end of it to put Sweden ahead. Sweden have been doing this for a while now, with players like the Swedish Burj Khalifa, Magdalena Eriksson, Natalie Björn, and Linda Sembrant all really good targets to aim for whenever Sweden have an attacking corner. No other national team in the world is this good at maximizing their talents when it comes to corners. Sweden have designed a tactical setup that works, and I'm slightly confused as to why more teams haven't started doing this. My answer to the confusion is simply, teams don't care that much about set pieces. Most of the time, teams are focused on playing beautiful passing football, relying on that to score them goals. Any goals scored from set pieces are usually a bonus. So far in the WSL this season, 118 goals have been scored at the time of recording, and only 9 of them have come from corners. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but I'm slightly surprised at the lack of focus on set pieces given almost none of the teams in the WSL have a designated set move when it comes to corners like what we saw with Frankfurt in Sweden. The one team that have scored the most goals from corners in the WSL so far this season is Manchester City, scoring 3 goals so far. They're the only team in my opinion that have any sort of consistent set move for corners, which is precisely the one I mentioned earlier with a tall player looping around to the back post, heading it back to the middle of the 6-yard box and hoping someone turns it in. This is also how Naomi Lazelle scored her first ever senior goal for City against Barcelona last season, with players like Viviana Miedema, Bunny Shaw, Jade Rose, Gracie Pryor, and Grace Clinton, who's actually quite good in the air. Just for a laugh, I would love to see them use the Frankfurt tactic, where they pile all of them in front of the keeper and see who comes out on top. It probably won't happen, but with Alex Greenwood and Yui Hasegawa as the designated corner takers, it could very well work. I've been wanting to make a video about set pieces for a while, because it actually has a lot of detail and design that coaches put in that's really hard to notice in real time when you're watching a game. Corners are a wonderful part of the game, extremely underrated, and it's honestly really satisfying to watch when a team gets it right. Like I said in the introduction, lots of memorable moments in football have come from corners, and there will be plenty more iconic moments to be made in the future as well. Hopefully this video helped you understand what really goes on during corner kicks a bit more. If you're a new visitor to the Shadow Football channel, welcome. If you've been here for a while, I'm sure you've noticed that I've been experimenting with different video styles, concepts to talk about, so I'm not just doing match analysis every single video. So if this video was an interesting watch for you, please let me know in the comments. If there's another area of the game you'd like me to look at and make a video about, also let me know in the comments down below. But the takeaway from this video are, corners are awesome, Amanda Illerstedt is the queen of corners, and hopefully more teams in the future will put more of an emphasis on corners, because it really is an underrated, chaotic, and beautiful part of the game.